Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 80, Fear and Anxiety, Part 1. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
This is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, helping you heal your family legacy. Now, today I am going to talk about fear, which is, other words for it, anxiety, apprehension, feelings of being overwhelmed, threatened, all these things. And I'm doing that because I was wondering, okay, I've covered all the childhood trauma. I've talked about the impact of that childhood trauma. I've talked to you about what you can do to help heal your family legacy. And I've talked about it many times in many ways. And so I asked a group of my friends, I said, now I've talked about this, and I've even reiterated it. What kind of things do you think would be helpful for me? My group of friends consists of all professional people, doctors and administrators, So, overwhelmingly, they said, let's talk about why people aren't reacting to the situations that are occurring today. For instance, climate change. For instance, guns, and how, it's a daily toll, and especially the doctors who work with people who are victims of crime and, particularly guns. And, I said, I think that's really good. And it actually goes to what I've been talking about all this time, which is childhood trauma. And fear and anxiety was one of the things that came up. It's like, why don't people respond? And because I tend to be more concerned about these issues on a smaller micro way, as a therapist for 50 years. So while I know most of the time when people have experienced childhood trauma, they have a hard time responding to their current life situations, let's say for adult trauma. So just to give you an example of that micro situation is that if you were beaten as a child, then you are going to have a response to someone threatening you as an adult. So if you were beaten as a child and someone is going to hit you as an adult, there will be different ways that you respond to that versus people who were not abused as a child. So your reaction will be similar to the reaction you had if you were beaten as a child. If you were beaten as a child and the way you responded to that, at some point, let's say you froze. So every time somebody tried to hurt you as a child, you froze and couldn't respond to that, then that will be the way that you respond as an adult. If, however, you came back fighting yourself, then you'll probably respond in that way as a child. Now, in terms of fighting, does that mean that, if somebody's threatening me, I think I'll call 911? No, it means more like somebody threatens you and you're on them before they can even whistle Dixie, okay? So fight, flight, freeze, those are the primary ways that people respond to the fear of being attacked. And like I said, one is, it's like freezing, one is fighting, and the other one is running. Now, bring that up to current life and situations that we're dealing with right now. Let's say you know, the slaughter of children and adults in their life situations. Okay. Like Uvalde, like Parkland, like, even Columbine going back, even, the shooter at the Texas University back when I was young. That was horrifying. And people actually talked then about what are we going to do about this situation? At the time, it was more about, oh, this guy's mentally ill. But as we have learned over time, of course, somebody that goes out and takes out a group of people, kids in a school, in a classroom, or, in a mall or in a grocery store or wherever it is, that person is mentally ill. And I've talked about this before, that hatred of a group of people, it doesn't make a person bad, because that's not how we're born. We are not born to hate people. It's a mental illness. And I didn't realize this as a young person, that hatred isn't a mental illness that can be treated with drugs, or, maybe therapy would work, but it's one of those mental illnesses that I wasn't aware you could actually, is actually easy to catch. Okay? Hatred is a mental illness. When somebody hates somebody because of the way they look or who they love, that is a problem. Okay? It is a mental illness, and it needs to be treated. So if somebody walks in with a gun because they hate somebody because of the way they look or what they think that person threatens them in some way, that they're not threatening anybody, it's a mental illness. They're not seeing reality for what it is. And, how to treat that? It's a hard to treat, even as a therapist. I know in my own life, because for those of you who have never listened to this, I'm gay, and I've had people in my office that didn't realize I was gay. I don't know how they didn't know that, but didn't realize that I was gay, and were ranting about gay people. We're threatened by gay people. And I remember this one young man who was really threatened by gay people, and he was in my office talking about this fear that had him to the point where he thought all gay men, were out to have sex with him. Now, that's called homophobia in the world. It's like, if you're that afraid that gay men are going to force themselves to have sex with you, then you probably are a closet case, and you need to deal with your own feelings of attraction towards other men. Let me tell you that I have yet to know or work with, and remember, I work with sex addicts, but I have yet to know a person who was actually raped by a gay man. Ever. I've known gay men who have been sexually assaulted by quote-unquote heterosexual men, but not by gay men. Gay men are not rapists. All right, so these kinds of fears don't have a basis in reality, and yet they contribute to the problem of violence against gay people. It's just hatred. Okay? Hatred needs to be understood on the level where it derives, right? So back in my office, when I'm listening to this young man, I was personally a little bit distressed by it, but my job as a therapist isn't talking about my own distress. So one day, it's like I talked to him about his own real feelings. And we finally got to the bottom of what it was. It was troubling him. And it was because, guess what? He suffered as a child. He didn't realize he suffered, but he did suffer because at a very young age, he knew he was attracted to boys. But he lived in an environment where, his religion wouldn't agree to it. God knows his parents, especially his father, who was absolutely talking about queers and faggots and everything else all the time. And when he was old enough to realize that, that's me, he started having fear and anxiety about that. And so what did he do? He went into a fight, flight, or freeze response and decided to fight. And he didn't, he froze his emotions, that his real emotions, and he put in anger over that. And that's how he responded to the world. That's how he responded to himself. And when he was able to uncover all that and realize that, he was terrified about who he was because he understood that it would be totally unacceptable. And his father would talk about killing queers. And he thought, that'll be me as a little boy. Now, yes, hatred is a mental illness. The only way to deal with it is to understand it, to find out what that's about. And so I'm going to go from that to, let's say, one of my friends said, because we started talking about all of this, and one of my friends said her concern was that it seemed like people were getting numb to the violence that we deal with almost daily, to the fact that our world is burning up. The climate change is actually real, and we're not responding to that. If there's a fire in our house, people run out going, fire, fire. They're, they start, trying to put it out. They try to get the people out. And what we're doing is we are trying to find ways to cool off personally, rather than looking at, here's a big deal, or guns. Okay, now we know that, a reaction that we're having is that we've gone numb to the impact. And instead of looking at it from a perspective of, if all these young men are so angry, maybe we should look at where that anger is coming from. And A, start dealing with it. B, don't make those guns so accessible so that they can go in and slaughter people. And then we look at it on the news, we're horrified for a minute, and then we return to our breakfast or a coffee or, our podcasts that help us feel better. Well, that's all fine and good, but the way to deal with fear, because all this is a fear response, even the numbness, it's like, I can't take another dose of this. Well, that's true, but if we don't do something, say, about climate change, we're not going to have to deal with the rest of these issues anyway, because we'll be cooked. We know this. So here's a situation. I don't, there's this, I'm going to back up a second and say, there's this metaphor about heat that has been around forever. I've used it in my own practice when I talk about, how people accommodate bad situations, accommodate their alcoholic parent, their alcoholic spouse, how they accommodate, difficult situations. And it's the one about the frog in the water. Okay. So it's like the guy, it's like the guy puts a frog in basic water that the frog is used to being in, and then slowly heats up the water. And frogs like being in water, so they just hang in there and hang in there and hang in there. Pretty soon the heat's so high the frog gets cooked and doesn't even realize that it's getting cooked, or it would get out. But it doesn't. That's human race right now. So we have learned to accommodate such horrendous behavior on behalf of, say, Ukraine. At first, people are really upset, and then we go numb. And we start to just accommodate that reality. We had a president that encouraged people to insurrection. At first, we're horrified. We couldn't stop watching it. And now, if anybody's watching the January 26th investigation committee, we're horrified again. And then when it's over, we go have dinner or we go do something else. It's like we are accommodating these realities. I've watched Europe burning on the news, and I just couldn't stop watching that. I lived through one of the most horrible wildfire seasons that we ever had here. I couldn't, there were almost 2 weeks where when I got up in the morning, I looked out the window and the only thing I could see was dark. Now we're talking about summer in the Northwest where the sun gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm getting up at, say, 5 or 6 or even 7 because, the sun couldn't make it through. There was so much ash and smoke in the air that the sun couldn't get through. I knew it was light. I knew it was day. I looked out. I couldn't even see the tree that sits maybe 15 feet from my window. I couldn't see it. For 2 weeks, the only thing I could breathe was smoke. And I was in my house. I didn't leave. But smoke can get in, okay? I don't care how, closed, how, put together your house is. Smoke gets in. That's all I could smell was smoke. I had those air purifiers going. We have a system on our air conditioning, and I do have it, and I'm thankful for it. We had a system that is supposed to clean that out. It came with the house. That wouldn't work. And every day I thought, I'm living in an apocalyptic movie right now. And I don't know what to do. Do you? Now, I'm not numb to it, but I'm baffled by it. But here's something that happened. This is a good thing, okay? I'm going to tell you a good thing that happened. Right now, we're still in fire season. Right now, there are, forest fires going like crazy. But not in Oregon. That horrified Oregon. Oregon burned. And Oregon's not like California. It's like we have the Cascades, they have the Sierras. But, when we have weather systems come in, it hits those giant mountains first. And so, we don't have air conditioning from the ocean. as most of California can have, because the Sierras are right on the border of Nevada. And there are no mountains really to speak of in between. And we have, up here in Oregon and Washington, we have just a little bit of space before those gigantic mountains show up. So most of the state is actually on the east side. And so when the systems and the air hits those mountains, it just stays there. And then the rest of the state is, left with, just what we got. We don't have this kind of air flowing through and moving through and trying to clean the air out. So when we had big fires a few years ago, everywhere, it's like we didn't have any air coming in to help clean out the oxygen. So we were just breathing that crap. And I didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do. We just stayed in our houses and hoped that it would clear up. And I think that's happening on an international level with the fact that our world is burning. We are burning up. Now, and here's so we're kind of numb to it. I don't think about it when I wake up in the morning immediately, but I'll tell you, I think about it as soon as I walk out the door, because I hike a lot, and I find that, it's like the warmer it is, the higher I have to go to hike into the mountains, and the earlier I have to get there. Because I have to be out by 11 o'clock in the morning, or I could be in danger of overheating, of getting a sunstroke. That didn't happen before. I could go up and be at the trailhead at 10 o'clock in the morning in the middle of summer, and I'd pretty much be okay. Now I have to hit the trailhead at 7 o'clock so I can be back at 11 o'clock so I don't die of heat stroke in the mountains, where it's pretty cool up there by and large, next to what's going on in the high desert. So, for those of you who don't know, my siblings and I own a ranch in Utah. And we do have water rights. We do have water on our ranch. And, I don't need to go in and talk about water rights and water law and all that. I know more about that than I ever thought or wanted to know, because we almost lost them. So anyway, I have been following one of the news issues, and it's interesting to me that, I don't see this on the regular news. I don't even see it on PBS. It's like, hello, there's a big crisis going on in Utah. The Great Salt Lake is drying up. The scientists have told us that if that lake dries up, and is drying up really fast, there are many ways that could be apocalyptic for the entire state of Utah. So, one of the things is that it's a major flyway for the birds. So, birds will fly there. This is where they stop to rest, to eat. They eat brine shrimp that have been in the Great Salt Lake forever, for as long as anybody knows. Brine shrimp have been in the Great Salt Lake. And that flyway is huge. In fact, our ranch is on that flyway. And because of the water we have now, the birds are actually stopping there, and it's pretty wonderful and all that kind of stuff. But the Great Salt Lake is the stopping point for that huge bird migration. And they eat brine shrimp, and they hang out on the water of the Great Salt Lake so that they can continue to fly north and south. So what happens when all those birds show up and there's no Great Salt Lake for them? They die. There's nowhere for them to go. They have to eat. So I'm going to continue to talk about this potential apocalypse for the people of Utah, and it's like the rest of us too. Nobody dies on this planet. No place completely dies without the rest of us dying along with it. So I'm going to continue this conversation and talk about the rest of that apocalypse next time. I hope you'll join me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2022, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.